Superstar Joe, you got Superstar Rob, and you got Superstar Rhys in the building. How's it going, Rhys and Rob?
Oh my god. A double knockout.
We gotta stop inviting people, Rob.
A double knockout.
Gotta watch it.
I think we're starting to realize that we're really, really weak, Rob.
Hey, Crypto Pro was the last guy that knocked us out both at the same time, and he did it with boxing gloves, though. But wow, we got a heavy hitter here today. Superstar Rhys in the house. Let's go. Let's go.
Thank you. Thanks for coming through, Rhys. Really, really appreciate you coming on. It's been obvious that Veve and ecomi have been in the community watching YouTubers and going on their streams and announcing drops and doing all kinds of different things to involve the community, which we think is awesome. So really, really want to thank you for being here.
No worries. Really appreciate the invite. And, I'm glad I'm stronger than both of you. We established that at the start.
And we even had higher ground and we can do it. So guys, if you are new here, don't forget, become a superstar. Hit the subscribe button down below. Great things are happening to superstars every single day. The juju is real. If you haven't heard of the juju, you haven't watched any of our videos, because superstars are hitting on drops like crazy. Things are happening in their work life. It is fantastic. So become a superstar. And also, you have the opportunity for $2.99 a month. Become a superstar VIP. We post our drop spreadsheets. We have giveaways. We give away stars in the universe, named stars in the universe after some of our superstars. And we post all our buys and sells on Veve. So definitely check out the Superstar VIP if you haven't. $2.99 a month. And we're going to keep continuing to bring more and more to that program as it comes. So, wow. I'm still in shock here that we got Rhys on the channel, guys. Make sure that you're also following him on Twitter. There he is, beautiful. He's in the inner circle. Everybody sees him, but not that you need the followers. 23.7K, but every
one of them.
Everybody's following you already. So it might not move at all from our channel, but thank you for coming on. And if you aren't, please go follow Rhys on the Twitter.
Best flow in the game. Best flow in the game. All right, well, let's start it off. So again, thank you for coming. We have taken feedback from the community over the last 2 days because we were able to actually announce this in advance, and from Twitter or DMs, we did our best to compile some of the most popular questions. Okay,
fantastic. Just a couple of wins.
Right. So we'll do our best to cover everything, and we really hope that there's enough time that we're going to be able to go to the live chat and bring some more up. So we want to start off like super general. And one of them is, of course, Q3 priorities. Just an update again in terms of what we can expect in the near term. What do you have to tell us?
Yeah, so I think that Dan and Dave mentioned this in co-founders video, maybe, that MCP is now back on the table and trying to get those things over the line. Trying to think what else would be the priority on the Veve side. Obviously on the OMI side, the OUP is number one priority, just to get that out, which obviously is going to be the information, right? It's not necessarily the integration to start with. We will still collect a round of community feedback and those things. So waiting on some legal clearance and really, I mean, it does change quite frequently, right? I know that people, and I'm sure that this is in that giant list of questions, so we may as well get to it. People always want to know when OUP and why is it taking so long and all those kind of things. And both very fair questions at this point. It's taken a while because it's changed quite a bit, right? In terms of the way that we've designed it, the way that each system that we've designed interacts. And we're really trying to return all of the original plan, the original token utilities. We found some pretty novel ways to re-engineer them effectively. And then we need to balance it with the MCP, right? You need to kind of balance both sides of the house there. We really want to make sure that the incentives are strong enough for OMI, right? And a lot of the, how can I word this? A lot of the integrations of the OUP will be based on your staking tier, right? That opens access to different options within the app. Making sure that we have those elements right so that each piece of it interacts correctly and that we can design the business logic around it so that it actually plays out the way that we anticipate is taking quite a while. And to be completely honest, it's changed a heck of a lot since that first article. So what we've actually done is build a portal, right? A tokenomic portal. Now it's not like some fancy, like amazing thing. It's using an app called Notion, which lets you create these wikis and really compartmentalize information succinctly, right? Because one of my biggest pet peeves with OMI and probably everybody else's is that the information about the token is so disjointed now, right? People are using you've got the white paper, which was 4 or 5 years ago and been delivered on. We've got all the articles on Medium, which have, obviously kind of moved down the ranks as we write new things and all the information goes everywhere. We've got 3 tokens still technically, right? There's OMI on GoChain, there's wrapped OMI on Ethereum, and there's the new ERC20 OMI token. So for anyone new to the ecosystem, it's really confusing, frankly, to try and find that information and understand what is going to drive value to this token and how it interacts with Veve and all of that. So we've really taken the time to break that down, try to simplify it as much as possible so that people understand it while not glazing over the technical details of what's taking place. And in that amount of time, those plans have just changed time and time again because we find better ways to do things. There's new uses of the technology or the way that the app is being used changes a little bit, that kind of thing. And frankly, it's allowed us the mental clarity to actually continue to produce a stronger and stronger utility program and forward plan a bit. So that's a little bit of insight into why it's taken so long to kind of get there outside of the needing legal clearances and all of those things. Because once you ratify something, right, once you put it into writing, obviously if legislation changes and something changes, we have to abide by that. But I don't want to change this thing. Right? Once it's out there, I want it to be done. So it's, we're really taking the time to do it. And these days we don't really release information until we're closer to a integration, really. Wouldn't you? Shout out, bud. So it's one thing. We could release the article. If we put it out 3 months ago and OMI still wasn't available, then we'd just be fielding why isn't it available questions, right? So personally, I think we've moved towards a rollout strategy that is more information, integration, and then evaluation.
So Q3 is MCP, OUP, maybe?
I think we'll see MCP first, or the first phase of MCP, right? Which is the points and those kind of things.
Yeah.
I am hopeful that we get the OUP information out within the next few weeks. But don't hold me to it in case something holds it up. And then fingers crossed we see the first OMI integration before the end of the year. That's what I would hope. And as I think we've mentioned before, that would be OMI to NFT. Which, if anyone's never heard of that, will let you transact in the market using your OMI tokens, basically. So you can list in OMI or receive OMI for whatever you want to sell there. So that's kind of the first stage. Now, I think there'll be a flat, one of the differentiations in the staking tiers is that there are different fee tiers, obviously to incentivize people to move up those staking ranks. But I think we'll start at just a flat, tier 3 or whatever it happens to be, across the board. And then when the staking does come in, which I think will be one of the later implementations, then we can differentiate at that point.
Yeah, I think when we had our interview with Puddin' Cheek, speaking of him, he was mentioning that early on you guys had some kind of OMI to NFT, NFT to OMI, and he was having to check both charts at the same time. So you would have to check the OMI chart and then see if it was a good time to sell and check the prices of collectibles. Is that still going to be a thing? Like when this is all rolled out?
I did watch this. No, I think it was originally we had OMI to gem, right? You could, if
OMI to gem.
You could swap it for gems
to
buy collectibles. And he was referring to effectively the game, right? How you can trade that market, because if you happen to purchase OMI tokens at a lower value and now that price has gone up, you could swap it for more gems, right? And purchase more collectibles. That was the sort of original premise, which still stands, right? If you can transact in the market with OMI, and most people will price their things on a dollar value, even though it's in OMI tokens. But if the value of OMI happens to increase, obviously you have a bit more to play with there in terms of purchasing collectibles. So obviously not financial advice, any of that, disclaimers, blah, blah, blah. But that is effectively how the token interacts with the system, yeah.
It's like Wild West, sounds like.
Just another way to... It depends on your preferences, right? Some people will only transact in gems. They might be non-crypto. They might just prefer that nature of things. But I, for one, am digitally native, crypto native, and have been holding my OMI for a long time to use it in the app. And I think once more people catch on to that, once they see what's available in the OUP, there's incentive there to have the token, right? It doesn't mean rush out and fill your bag straight away, but that's the point of it. Right, to try and incentivize use and adoption of the token, obviously in our own ecosystem, and velocity of the token, right? You want the advantage of having the token to be strong enough that people want to spend it because it will take it out of circulation. And that's where the collectibles come in, right? Obviously having the biggest IP in the world, quite desirable as collectible items. You see how it goes.
Okay, so speaking of collectibles, now that you mentioned that, we did a video a couple days ago about ownership, and it's a question that we got a lot on our channel, especially in the comments, and people were noticing that in the terms and conditions, there was a clause now that said if you don't access your account within 2 years, you're going to send an email or something, or 2 emails, and if you don't answer that, your account will be closed. Not something necessarily that we're entirely on board with, just because of the whole not my keys, not my crypto. Is there something that you guys are planning maybe to bring interoperability in before that actually happens, before the 2 years, or is this just like ironclad? Is there, or have you guys discussed it? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, so I don't have a timeline on interoperability, and if that clause has just happened, presumably. So you're sort of talking at least 2 years from this date. Now, I think we all agree that anyone using the app is probably going to open it within the next 2 years, right? So I don't think it'll affect that many people. My assumption, and this is only my assumption, I'll talk to the legal team, is that we need something in there to deal with any bot accounts that we've frozen, right? There has to be some stipulation in there that says after X amount of time, we can close your account if we know that it's nefarious, right? Or a scam account or things like that. So I'm assuming that that's what that clause went in there for. But obviously, as everybody knows, that interoperability is the plan. That's why we migrated to Immutable X, all those things. So look, I think it'll be a non-issue. And I don't know if it's that hard to set a reminder to open an app once every 2 years or something, right? But I understand the concern. I do understand the concern.
Some people might put their life savings into a partner statue and then want to not look at it for 5 years. And they say, this is my crypto money and my NFT money. And that's the plan. Some people might have already done it and they don't know that this clause changed. So I'm sure that maybe you can clarify, but if people were to come to you and say, this is what happened, maybe that's something that could be unlocked or resolved. And that will settle, I think, a lot of people.
I think so. We always have that power there, right? If we're closing an account or anything like that, like we can still reopen that account if there's activity on it later. So, yeah.
So as a separate question about the limited license, this is something else that I wondered. We came to Veve initially because of Disney and retweeting on their account that about the first golden moments, and that really attracted us to this app. Very much legitimized the app for us. So with limited license, Alex once mentioned that like you can't go and buy one of these Disney NFTs or on Veve and then go open up like a restaurant with the name, because you don't actually own the license to everything related to it. It's limited. I don't think I've ever seen description of what that limited license is. But one thing I also wanted to know was, when this comes to interoperability, is there going to be a restriction at all with some of these IPs about taking it off app and trading it somewhere else?
Yep. Yeah, some of them, we've always kind of said this, we've been very open book about it from the start, that some of them just won't go for it, right? And some of them will take longer to go for it. So I've always been of the opinion that the artists, the independent representation, right? They represent themselves and their own works, obviously have much more freedom as to what they can allow with their IP, letting it go to other platforms. Whereas some of the bigger licensing companies, like, I'm not saying they're not going to go for it, because everybody understands opportunity here, right? And everybody can see that from a branding perspective, having your product in more places is beneficial to the company, right? But they do have to go through much more stringent legal approvals, frankly, to allow those things. And then they have to make sure, like, if we use Disney as an example, they are so protective of their IP, right? Like, it's still incredible to me that we managed to secure that license and everything in the Disney house, right? But they approve everything, right? Every social image, every text, every font, every single thing that goes out. There's weeks and weeks and weeks of back and forth just to get things in the app, let alone protecting their IP on other platforms. And right now, all we really see on OpenSea, you see Disney NFTs, you see Veve NFTs, but they're all scams, right? Yeah. And their biggest concern is the damage that can do to their brand or their IP if the reports start coming in that, oh, I bought this Disney NFT and it's fake and it's this and that, right? So personally, I think that external NFT marketplaces, really the NFT industry at large, is still too young to really accommodate those big brands kind of moving into that space. Now we're starting to see it, right? We're starting to see DC do it. with Bat Cows or Palm NFTs, with Hero, HRO, however you pronounce that. And those guys will, they'll lead the charge, right? And show what a Web3 adaptation can really do for a company's bottom line. And I think that will end up benefiting everybody in the industry. But at the moment, I think that people are kind of happy to just see how it plays out for the next little while before committing to anything.
Okay, so you mentioned kind of immutable and their interoperability that we're looking towards in the long term. When we do get, I guess, OUP, is that's probably when we'll get metadata, I would assume, or maybe is it closer towards the interoperability that we'll get that metadata?
Sorry. So actually, that's a good reminder. Metadata is one of the Q3 priorities, I think they mentioned, or one of the coming priorities. And no, not quite. So the metadata will be API based, right? So it will create whatever development things that needs to create a link to our databases so that people can pull that information. So metadata is a separate thing. OUP is literally only referring to using the OMI token in the app. Yeah, the utilities of it.
Yeah, so I guess the question is then you'll be able to see when things were moved around. And right now you look on IMX, you can see the token ID, but it doesn't say what the actual collectible is. Now we will see that.
Yeah, with images, you'll be able to see the purchase history or transaction history.
So how far back, when you went onto IMX, or will you be able to see adjustments for GoChain or anything like that?
Onto IMX.
Onto IMX.
Yeah.
Was Todd first on IMX?
Yeah, Todd was first for everything. Todd was first in that
Okay.
system. Todd will always be number one.
Okay.
The actual, I know people put a lot of weight on the actual number of the token, but that's completely arbitrary to what it is, right? It was always the first in our ecosystem. It will always be the first. It doesn't matter if it's like token 001 or token 4000.
Okay, cool.
So back to the OUP, is it going to be like the workflow going to be when you come onto the app? Because one of the benefits of Veve was how easy the onboarding was at first. I know KYC now is going to limit that a little bit. And you're dealing with, something, gems are essentially fiat, so it's easy. But when OUP comes, will you be able to purchase layer 2 OMI directly on the app, or you buy the gems and then convert them to the OMI? And then will we ever be able to see, one thing that we used to like to track a lot was gems in app, the sum of all the gems in the wallets of everyone, that was given to us just through calculations, through putting spreadsheet. So with those two questions, will that ever come?
So he's still tracking the gems in app. Am I right about that?
He can't now because of Cashout. So we don't know anymore. We just know the gems coming in, but we don't know anymore how much are in everyone's wallets. Is that information that could ever be available?
Look, maybe, right? I wouldn't rule anything out, but I think that it's also pretty sensitive business information, right? The only way Puddin' Cheeks got that was by reverse engineering transactions based on what was moving between reserve and vault. I'm inclined to say that might be the end of it whenever these things happen. It's probably data that the company would prefer to hold on to.
Okay.
But I always push for as much transparency as we can get, or at least give updates on those kind of things. What was the first part of your...
First question was purchase layer 2 OMI on the app directly, or would it be to gems and then transfer over?
Again, no confirmation, but obviously that would be the most seamless way to get OMI tokens, right? Instead of having to buy it on exchanges, bridge it, do all the nonsense that goes with it, right? And look, I think in the next 12 months, we're going to see a lot more exchanges onboard directly to layer 2, right? We've already seen it. A lot of exchanges offer on-ramps directly to Arbitrum, Optimism, like a lot of these layer 2 ecosystems. I think we'll see the same thing with Immutable. The reason that it takes longer for Immutable is because of the way that their rollups work. So I don't know how technical you guys get on ZK rollups and things like that, but Immutable uses what's called a Validium rollup, which basically means everything happens off-chain and then they compress a proof, right, of what happened, and they commit it to the Ethereum chain, right? They roll it down and commit it. Whereas Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, even for some of these other networks, everything's still happening on-chain, but it's happening on their scaled blockchain and then gets committed to the base layer, or they're just inheriting security from that. So it's basically just a more complicated integration to integrate IMX, to put it short. But yeah, the intention would definitely be to make OMI as accessible in the app as everywhere else. And I think it's pretty safe to say it would be in the web app, right? Because Apple have their own issues with using alternative currencies or sending people to alternative places. Android's not so bad, but you kind of want to keep things uniform across the ecosystem. So I'd say that all will happen through the web app.
Okay, cool. So we recently saw you guys at Comic-Con, right beside Marvel. Really cool type of marketing. And then a couple weeks later, we got the AF-15 drop and silence. You look up news articles, Veve, AF-15. You don't see anything about it. Was it intentional? Like, we're not complaining. Rob hit it on the drop. I got it in the secondary market. That was our option. We were able to do that. If there was more people, it would have been a lot harder, we would think. Was it intentional, and what was the reasoning to not market such a big comic?
Yeah, look, probably a better question for Alex.
Yeah.
But any of that co-marketing, it's not just us deciding on it, right? It's Marvel deciding on where they want to push their products, how they want to put it out. Does it fit with the rest of their marketing? Is this a nice way to reward the people who have been collecting on Veve? All those kind of simple things. Now, I know everyone looks at that and thinks, oh, maybe it was a missed opportunity, but that's because we don't all have the whole picture, right? So yeah, I mean, it was intentional to not be pushing that out further, and I think it paid off for everybody that's using the app, or most people that's using the app, and it's really successful drop. Obviously, people always get a bit antsy and nervous between high-profile drops because they think it's going to be overrun by bots, which it seems we've kind of squashed at this stage. Yeah. I think it was just a really nice way for us to give back to people that have been using the app, paying attention, KYC'd when it was open, right? There was obviously big issues there with people waiting to the last minute to KYC and then submitting the wrong documents and going into the support queue, right? And obviously our support team has and continues to work through that as quickly as they can. But I think it was just a little thank you to everyone who's been using Veve, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not complaining because we did a video on this saying it gives everyone an opportunity. It's a gift, especially that, right now it's a bear market. You don't have a lot of traffic coming into the app. It's a gift to us, and it's always there to market in the future. But it was a common question in the community, and I think you answered it pretty well there. Speaking of marketing, and I know you referred to Alex in the last one, but we're going to ask you anyways, have the macroeconomic conditions changed your marketing strategy at all? We've been tracking, obviously, Google Trends. We've been tracking like the recession, right? All the data coming in regarding the appetite for NFTs. You need people who tend to go after them, or investors, or people who have free cash flow to actually go and buy them. Have you changed at all your marketing strategy? Like, for example, when we talked about Disney tweeting the golden moments, that brought us in, but we haven't really seen them that active since. Is that related to the macroeconomics? Is that related to the app maybe not being ready yet? Can you confirm?
I would relate it more to the app not being ready. Yeah, especially marketing from our side, right? Like, obviously, Comic-Con, huge event, great way to intro. And, typically in marketing, you have touch points, right? Like, I don't think anyone pays attention to ads on Facebook or Twitter or any of those things anymore, right? But the first touch point might be Comic-Con, and then the next one's an article you read, and then the next one's something else. And that might be enough to kind of bring you into the app. So it's not... I think people expect us to just kind of throw Veve all over billboards all over the city, and that's going to bring in users, right? But it's just not how human psychology works. It's not how marketing works. It's just not the play there. Now, for us, not having payout was a huge hindrance to marketing, right? And you don't really want to push a product that instantly leads to complaint, because then you end up with app store reviews that aren't good and all these things, even though there's warnings in the app and all the obvious things, right? So now that pillar is in, we can really start to branch out and spread the wings, as they say, and market elsewhere. Now, whether that comes with co-tweets from Disney and Marvel and things like that, maybe, right? I think we're seeing it more with the cross-promotional stuff, right? The movie, cinema posters, things like that, right? AMC were the ones that put that out, not us. Then we retweeted, or UCI in Italy and Germany. So it will always vary, right? And it will always vary depending on the brand. In the early days, we would just roll out press release after press release, right, to announce these new licenses. But that, if you do that too much, you kind of lose the people that are pushing them out, lose interest in pushing out the next one, right? Even though it is, every single one of them is monumental for the NFT industry, it gets a bit stale from a story point of view if that's kind of all you're pushing out there, right?
Yeah.
So you try to really just spread the crumbs, right? You're trying to move that out. So you have press releases on one side to announce these kind of big brands. You see these kind of mainstream publications like David and Dan were just in that Japanese magazine. I don't know if anyone saw that on Twitter.
Yeah, on Twitter.
From a community point of view, obviously we're always jumping into these interviews and available for AMAs. Now, I wouldn't call that marketing per se, but it's definitely helping to disseminate information, right, amongst everybody in the community. And those events, at least right now, like they are so targeted in terms of our audience. And I would argue DesignerCon probably even more so than Comic-Con, right? I know the Comic-Con booth was incredible, and we're at New York Comic-Con later in the year, but DesignerCon really is that designer toy, plush, collectible, you know, all those kind of brands. And most of the artists that we drop are at the event, right? So it's much more personal. These guys have their own followings. I think it's easier to encourage them to go and check out Veve because they're fans of this work and there's a face attached to it instead of like the big conglomerate of Marvel or Disney. So yeah, I think that those are, at least for the stage where Veve is at right now, I think they're really great. I think they're a really great way to be marketing these products.
We're actually coming to Decon in Anaheim in November, so that'll be a good time for sure. You spoke about a bunch of different types of marketing, and we're of the same opinion that the more places you put it out there, maybe and it might not be the first time people see it that they're going to join, but then if they see it again somewhere else, then say, oh, I remember that, and you kind of ingrain it, and that's more of a natural, organic growth to the user base, which I think is the right way to do it. We eliminate all the problems, tear it down to the bottom, get those core users and build it up. I think that is the way that it should be done. I think that's how you guys have been doing it. The other thing that we know probably is in the pipeline, or you guys are probably thinking about, there's a lot of people much more influential than Superstar Money on this platform we're all watching. We actually, the reason that I got in was my first tip was through Andre Jick. So I saw his video about Veve. I didn't put any money in because it could be a YouTuber pumping his bags. Then Disney tweeted it. So like I said, the first time I saw it, I didn't put money in. The second time I saw it, Disney tweeted it. That for me was confirmation. That said, okay, they're not going to rug pull me. They're standing behind this product. They're putting it out there and they're giving utility at the same time. To me, that connected the dots. And it's just a timing thing for me. And I wouldn't have known about it though if I didn't watch the Andre Jick video. So does Veve have communications with certain influencers who may or may not be into certain collectibles and or trading cards? Period.
No.
Okay.
No, not at the moment anyway.
Do you plan to use, I guess, bigger influencers in the future for marketing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if we're talking about marketing, it's probably the most effective strategy these days, right? And I mean, we're now going to benefit massively, in my opinion, from Instagram rolling out digital collectibles, right?
That was the next question. Was
not NFTs, right? But they're doing the heavy lifting, right? The same way that Meta is going to do the heavy lifting on the Metaverse and building out that core infrastructure and educating people on what it is and the opportunity. We're seeing the same. I mean, it's their company, right? Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Yeah. They obviously see the potential here, right? And how being able to create your own NFTs or digital collectibles supplements the creator economy, which really has become that influencer economy, right? It lets you monetize your audience, a trusted audience, right? Or your audience trusts you or trusts your products. And yeah, I just think that's, at least right now, at this moment in time, is one of the most effective strategies that we could utilize.
So is that Instagram, Facebook platform part of Veve's, like, are you guys going to try and go into allow the collectibles to be posted on people's profiles? Is that something you might look towards in the future?
Honestly, I haven't used their integration yet, right? I don't think I have access to it and all of those kind of things. Once they're interoperable, they can be used the same way, right? They can be used CFP, that kind of thing. For now, I think it's more just people can share their images, their showrooms, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And my understanding of the Instagram implementation is that you know, if you create content that goes viral or is good, you can then turn it into a digital collectible. But
I think you have to, it has to be verified or something by whatever blockchain or something that says that you're the true owner to be able to load it there. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard and
makes sense.
I was reading about it. That's why I asked you if you guys had any thoughts of using that in the future. But no, that's a good answer.
Yeah. Great.
So the thing about the web app, so is the long-term vision for that to be maybe an all-in-one place for everyone? So for example, charting, like right now, we got a Ecomi wiki that has the charts, candlesticks, things like that. Would eventually the web app be that all-in-one place?
Yeah, so maybe. Right now, I am more content with implementations like that, right? I mean, the clowns like Ecomi Wiki, there's a few other ones that I know of that are in the works. The community have built this incredible array of tools, and we're trying to give them API access so that they can make those available. I personally think that that's better, right? Then you can opt into the one you want to use. And for Veve especially, we tread a very fine line in our language in the way that we display things. Obviously, you can trade these collectibles and make money. But as soon as we start portraying that you could make money, it becomes a very gray area from a legal point of view. And if we start displaying price charts and things that might influence your choices as to what to purchase on those things, then I think it puts us in a pretty bad place. So I think I'm more inclined to say that they'll be community run for a while. If we do take that on, or even like buy some of these platforms, then I think we would maintain them as a separate entity, right? But when it comes to the web platform, yeah, the intention is for the web platform to become like the Veve hub, more so than the phone app and things like that, right? Obviously, it's cheaper for people to get gems on there. It's better for us from a company point of view if people are using the web app instead of giving 30% to Apple or Google. But you have your Omi wallet in there as well, right? So when those Omi integrations and features come out, that will be through the web app, right? Staking and things like that. The Veveverse, whenever it comes, you're going to branch out from the web app and your gems and your accounts there as well. So yeah, really the web app, other than opening us up to a new audience now, is prepping for the next phase of the company.
So we know that you will now have a marketing team under Alex. So are you hiring new developers and tech people? Like we know that resourcing right now, the industries that we're familiar with, it's really hard to find good people to help deliver on the work. Are you having those troubles?
No more so than normal. We are very blessed that we hired responsibly in the bull market, and we don't have to cut 50% of our workforce like Coinbase and some of these other guys. And now we're in a position where we can pick up really high quality employees and developers and things, because the pool there has actually gotten a little bit bigger, right, in the bear market, as it tends to. We've also just got better at finding or identifying the skills that we need and whether the people that we are chatting to can actually fulfill those roles, right? Because obviously you don't just like hire a developer and they start on Monday and they're good to go, right? There's a long onboarding process there, a lot of security practices, all of those kind of things that kind of have to come into effect. But we've been hiring for the since we started, really. We keep putting on new developers, which is helping us to scale, obviously, the development side of things. As you said, Alex has built out the marketing team a bit more. We're starting to build that out. And that's how a company grows, right? This time last year, or Alex was with us, but not long before that, it was me, Dan, David. David and Dan didn't make that many appearances, until probably we started moving a bit more. And we were the front of house, right? I was doing everything for Veve and Ecomi socials, all the writing, all the articles, all the drop stuff, and bit by bit, we've built that out. So we hire more from, when we require the resource, rather than like, let's put on 10 people now and hope that we hit that capacity, right? So
last community update, Dan actually mentioned about the search bar and how it's not the perfect tool right now. That's, I think, where we got that question from, because we were wondering, maybe has that team already been hired? Like, has there been extra people added into that functionality? Is it ongoing right now, or are you still looking to get that?
So we don't necessarily hire for one particular piece of functionality. It's more allocating, right? We hire to the dev team, and then we allocate those development resources or that development time to particular tasks, right? Now, what slows things like that down? Okay, obviously, a functioning search bar would be great for all of us, right? It would make our lives easier. But there's probably 10 priorities before that are way more crucial to the app staying alive, or to something else happening, right? Or a new product rollout, or something like that. So it's not that they're not in the list of things to do, but we do have to prioritize towards things that are more crucial as a feature, as a function. Yeah, those kind of things.
So go ahead. Okay. So speaking of things to come, and stuff that we're expecting in the future. I mean, in the white paper, we've seen a bunch about it. Gamification, when that does come, if it does come, is there plans for gamification of existing collectibles on the app, or will it only be new things, or is it not maybe not coming ever? Like, what's the deal with gamification?
Yeah, look, this would be complete speculation if we want to continue this conversation, right? Because it's not. I don't actually have the details of what those plans are, but I think our general thinking is obviously most of the gamification, or what we refer to it as. Sorry, I should differentiate. The Master Collector program is a layer of gamification, right? Like gamification, but you're receiving points. You're able to spend those points. You know, there's strategies there. It really becomes a bit of a game there. But the gamification that most people refer to is like video games, right? Being able to actually play games with their characters. Now, I'm not going to say that the collectibles that are available now won't be part of that whenever that comes, or whatever that is. But I think that there are two things to kind of keep in mind, right? And I think there's one school of thought that would say, well, maybe you need a particular set to play a game in the Veveverse, right? And that's where renting of collectibles and things like that can really come into the play. And then there's people that want to use their characters and run around and use them as an avatar. Right?
Yeah.
And like, fair enough. I think that's awesome. But there's a heck of a lot of work that would need to take place for that to happen, because a lot of those early collectibles weren't built with skeletons, right? And this is only my general understanding of this from Trevor when he used to be with us. But if your collectible needs a skeleton for it to be animated, right, which we see with a lot of the animated ones. So we would either have to retroactively go back and rebuild the model effectively so that it could be used in that sort of thing. And then you're now talking like, I don't even know how many collectibles are on the app, but thousands, right? Or at least a lot of, a lot. So to do that for every single collectible and then have them move or be controllable or gamified is a big task. Right? We would basically need an entire gaming arm to actually manufacture that. So I'm not going to say any of those will or won't happen, because I really don't have the answers at the moment. I just want to set the tone for what it actually takes to get to people's expectations.
Cool.
Do you see a world where Veve can be successful competing with future metaverses without changing them? Then would we just relying on everything new to come as other competitors become more advanced as well? Do you think it'll be necessary more from a competitive standpoint?
Sorry, can you just rephrase that a bit? Do you think it's necessary for us to outdevelop? Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah,
like add utility to current collectibles.
Yeah. The one thing that sets us apart from a metaverse standpoint is that we have access to all of these licenses, right? And as more comes to the fore, it will become a bit more obvious what our play will kind of move into and what direction that will go. But at least to my knowledge, we are still going to be the only metaverse with all of this licensed IP. They obviously see the future there. And the metaverse itself gives us a lot of opportunity to have something that is more open and decentralized, right? It isn't sort of off like Veve is, and I think that most people really understand that, right? It's not open and interoperable, then you've just built a game. You haven't built any sort of metaverse implementation. So I think that will let us remain. I think we'll always be at the top of the game, but I'm incredibly biased, right?
Yeah.
But being open to that and enabling that, I think allows us to be competitive. It also means that we can build those implementations in other metaverses, right? And direct people back to ours or back to Veve and really start to spread those seeds elsewhere.
So the biggest utility, I guess, would be that interoperability and being able to use it in the metaverse, and then whatever comes from the metaverse would be added utility. If that,
yeah. I think honestly, the metaverse is so new in its design, in its concept, that what we think of the metaverse today is going to be completely different, right? So limiting our ideas to the utility of the collectibles, I think is too narrow a viewpoint, right?
Yeah.
Because that would be like an initial use for the collectibles. Again, the gaming example would be another use for the collectibles. But nobody knows where this is going to go. We're going to try and usher it in, the way that we think it should be built, at least for ours, right? We'll just have to see what happens.
Okay, another question. I know you guys get this a lot, but new verticals. I know David mentioned one was coming on the last time you guys did a Twitter Spaces. Is that the Artist Alley? And if it is, can we expect anything further to that, like trading cards, sports, anime, anything, anytime soon? That's a when question, but I'd like to hear what you guys say.
Yeah, that is the Artist Alley.
Yeah.
What we're referring to. I think we're now calling it the Artist Program. It turns out DC actually has a line of collectibles called Artist Alley. So that was always just a placeholder name. So that will be the next vertical to roll out. I've got some info on you guys while we're here. It is web only, so that won't be, you won't see it in the phone app, but it's web only, and that actually introduces silent auctions to the app as well, right? Because these pieces are going to be incredibly limited edition, 1 of 1s, 1 of 5s, that kind of thing. It's going to introduce silent auctions, so you can bid whatever you choose to bid on that piece, and obviously once the timer expires, highest bid wins, right, and gets those pieces. So I mean, we're talking some of the most exclusive items on the app. There's a really great lineup of artists and people that are into this. So I'm sure we'll release the actual information on it soon. I think it's actually pretty close to being implemented. So there's all of those details. Just off the top of my head, I think you have 4 days to participate in the auction. You can change your bid if you choose to up it, but there are limitations on how often you can change the bid. Can't withdraw them, within an hour of it closing. Just simple things like that to stop people gaming them. But the Artist Program will be the next vertical that we see roll out on the app.
I think we had some hints and maybe some 1 of 1 premium IP pieces on some previous discussions. That'd be interesting. A 1 of 1 Mickey Mouse. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And just to follow up with that question though, so like that we talked about like trading cards, anime, so that's good. But how about like for comics? We just recently did a video where comics, there was an old Marvel app where you would actually be able through your phone to open the comic book, a digital one, and you would see a hologram pop up. And we thought that'd be a really cool idea for Veve. Imagine you read the comic books and almost like a short little hologram story is activated as you flip through the pages. Is that something you guys ever considered?
Yeah. I mean, we've considered a lot of things, right? We do see a lot of comics with moving covers as well, right, across the internet, and they look amazing. Really, all of those things are up to Marvel, right? If we're using Marvel as the publisher, how they want to build out those implementations or add utility, for lack of a better term. I'm personally more excited about when wearable AR has become a more adopted technology, right? Because then instead of looking at it on the phone or seeing this thing, like you can actually see a story play out in front of you, right? Instead of like these little things. So look, I think that's where the technology is going. We're only becoming more immersed in digital tech. As to when that becomes the norm or becomes adopted, who knows? But I've said this in a few AMAs, like I've always envisioned a day where we're wearing AR glasses and walk across the Golden Gate Bridge and there's a giant Russo hanging above it and it airdrops you collectibles, right? Or things like that. Like,
oh, that'd be cool. Yeah,
we will get to a point where everywhere you look, there's digital advertisements and digital items and digital collectibles and quests that you can go on to get to, the walking tour around a city will change because you'll be incentivized to go to locations and things like that, right? So like, it's all coming, but we're talking like 10 years before those kind of things.
Yeah, you need to have the glasses where they're not so bulky and people can walk around and see things. And I've always thought that was the future of how this is all going to play out eventually. Like Starbucks has their menu on the wall and you just go up and tap what you want, something like that. Or you can pull up the menu in front of you and tap it.
If you think about it, like you won't need TV screens anymore.
Yeah.
You pin Netflix to the wall and look at it through your glasses, right? Like all of those phones will become obsolete because it'll be attached to us. And the only counter argument I ever see to that is like, oh, I'll never be that attached to technology, or I'll never get a chip, or this or that. It's like we're already there. People don't leave their phone behind. You got Apple Watches, you got like the whole thing,
Yeah, it's true. So we talked a little bit about the future. Let's maybe dial it a little bit back to what we already have, which is showrooms. And I've seen this already 17 times on the side here, so I'm just going to pull up one of them.
when comics are shown? Great question. Really good question. Yeah. I don't have an answer for that.
Not a priority yet, I guess.
So, are you ever going to update the number of collectibles in circulation, like Captain America, for example, where some of them weren't claimed and they were burned? We know there's locked bot accounts that maybe will never see the light of day, and then maybe in the future they'll be burning collectibles. Is there ever going to be an update to the number of collectibles?
Promo collectibles too.
Promo collectibles as well.
Yeah. Now, if I remember correctly, I think Dan's spoken about this. It won't necessarily update the original mint amount, but there'll be an extra piece of metadata to say, like, 5,000 minted, 3,000 in circulation, 3,000 available, or whatever it happens to be, so that that, okay, there's actually a lot less here. Because eventually we do want to enable burning of collectibles, right? If you hold giant bags of something and see benefit to burning it, anything like that, so we will need that piece of metadata to enable that.
So all of the promo codes that have been distributed now, is everything like unredeemable anymore? Like whatever's out there is out there?
Yeah, so most of them or all of them come with an end date, basically.
Yeah.
So you have 30 days to redeem, and whatever isn't redeemed in that amount of time, that's it, right? Because I think the AMC posters, I don't actually know. Do you guys know how many are in that mint size? Does it say? I think there was a lot, right? I think the cinema kind of thought, this, like 100,000 or something. Might not have been that big, but it was a pretty sizable amount. So, and I don't think that anywhere near that amount was redeemed. So yeah, it's definitely going to be important to have that metadata.
And as a follow-up question, we were curious, what happened with the blue and beta secret rare drop, where the announcement talked about the ultra rare and never said there wasn't going to be a secret rare? Was that all pre-planned? Was there a change of direction?
We're talking about the airdrop?
Yeah, the airdrop, exactly.
Yeah, so no, I think initially we were going to release that as a collectible, right? It was just going to be a standard drop. Now, we were sort of talking about this before the show. Jurassic Park for me is Jurassic Park 1993, right? And that memorabilia has more nostalgia, and I think that our current user base the predisposition is to things that from our childhood, right? Our generation. These collectibles are based on the new Jurassic Park movies. I don't think people hold as strong as an attachment to those. So we obviously saw the performance of those drops, right? The blue drop and those kind of things. Now they still did great, right? But I think people think if something doesn't sell out, that is a big issue. But it's like still thousands of these things sold in fractions of a second. But yes, and that drop, we pivoted direction and they agreed to airdrop it to people who did affiliate with the new movie, right? Or with those pieces. So, there is flexibility there when situations change. And I would argue that it's probably because of the macroeconomic outlook and the conditions that we're in that we see those things changing. But we've always had that ability to be nimble. That's the word I'm looking for.
Okay. I guess the next question is transfers. Now, I think a long time ago or a couple AMAs ago, you mentioned that it would come maybe with MCP. Maybe that's when we would get transfers back. Is that still the game plan? And if not, if it's further down the line, is Veve on board with assisting in giveaways or stuff like that with the community members who are running YouTube channels or anything like that to help maybe onboard people as well?
Yeah. So I have to get an update on the transfers front. The issue with them, and I think this is why I think Dan mentioned it might come with MCP at some point or whatever, is that it's really easy to launder money. You can transfer collectibles between people, right? We can make a transaction off app. I can send you a collectible and who knows where that's come from or where that's stored. So I think that the logic behind making it part of MCP, other than the fact that people are KYC'd, is that they are, if you're somewhere in the MCP program, then you're actually using the app, right? It's easier to differentiate you as a legitimate user. But outside of that, or until they make a return, one of the toughest things about switching that off was preventing everybody from using collectibles for promotions, right? And for giving them away and driving up that support. So if people want to do giveaways, anything like that, like get in touch with us. We can move them from account to account. So if you do a giveaway, if someone wins something, right, we can make that happen. And we absolutely want to, right? We from our own point of view, we keep an allocation of collectibles from every drop for exactly that purpose, right? And you may have seen we tend to do an end of season sweepstakes or giveaway where we sort of give away 60 or 70 collectibles. But the intention is to have something like that running all the time, every week, every second week, give people a chance to really help us promote the platform, but obviously also to be able to give some of these things away.
So those ones that you hold back, I know that you've done some giveaways and the mint numbers weren't necessarily the low ones. And we've seen Alex recently talk about how those ones will never see the light of day, he said. Do you hold back higher mint numbers as well on drops and then use those for giveaways? How's that work?
Yeah, so the first 40 of every drop are kept, right? They never see the light of day. They go to license holders, to the artists, all that kind of stuff. And then we hold 50 from most drops, I think, unless they're like a super low mint. But they're just randomized, right? It's the exact same way that when you participate in a drop, the addition, the cover, whatever it is completely randomized. So are the ones that we hold on to, right? Because 41 is effectively number one. And that should be going to collectors, right? So it's all randomized there as to what.
And that number that you're holding back, that's reflected on drop day in that drop page. Like if you're holding back, you said 40 plus 50, it would show 90 missing from what's left on the page. Okay.
Yeah. It'll say like, 10,000, 9,000, 910 available.
Yeah. I got you.
So KYC is now implemented. We're hearing a lot of people, messaging us saying that they're struggling through the KYC process. Can you give us an update on this?
Yeah. Firstly, read the instructions, please. And I'm sure everyone watching this video has already KYC'd, so that might not help. But we constantly update that article with best practices, what kind of documents to use, how to access them, all of those kind of things, right? So it shouldn't be that complicated, but I do understand that a lot of people that use Veve probably haven't KYC'd an exchange before, right? And the first time I ever did that, I was like, why am I giving these guys my passport? Like, what's going on here, right? So it can be quite a foreign experience. But if you follow the instructions, it shouldn't flag, right? It shouldn't take that long. So far, the implementation has been pretty successful, right? It's obviously there was always going to be teething problems, and that's why it's in public beta. We haven't fully announced that this is an implementation. Last I checked, I think there was like 15,000 people that had entered the queue that needed to be re-verified or things like that had some issue. And our support team is rampantly making their way through that queue to try and help everybody out. So, I mean, first and foremost, thanks to everybody for their patience on that front. Second, big shout out to the support team for the countless hours those guys put in to really try to help everybody over the line. But otherwise, in terms of a system-wide implementation and all of those things, I think it's been great.
Do you notice, because an early strategy of Veve was they didn't want KYC, it would be easier onboarding for growth. Are you noticing now that that's significantly slowed down growth at all? Maybe people are just scared to give the information.
No, I don't think so. The Veve user base still grows daily and weekly. Now that growth has slowed, but again, I think that's more a product of the market cycle that we're in than anything else. And I think I said this in a TAPS interview almost more than 12 months ago now, but we're in a hype cycle, right? NFTs had just become known, right? And for us, dealing with it for 3 years where no one knew what it was or cared about it, it was so exciting, right? And everyone was running on adrenaline. Now that hype cycle lasted the whole year, right? It actually matched the crypto cycle because that's where that attention is, right? And opportunity. And just like all markets and all cycles, I fully expect everything to return to normal or go straight back into rocket mode when everything looks clearer. Now, for a fledgling product in a fledgling industry, you kind of need that hype cycle, right? You need that real focal point of attention for that user base to continue to grow as rapidly as it was. But thankfully, because of it, we're in a really great position financially as a company, right? And we're still one of the only companies in Web3 that has a product, right? That people can actually buy, that people enjoy, you can do stuff with it, all of those things. And that has really put us in a great position still, right? And now we can actually ramp up marketing that people might consider to be more traditional marketing and those kind of things to really put the product in front of people. I really don't want to make light of how big the Marvel partnership is we have, right? That's the signature partnership. Like, it can take 7, 8, 9 years to secure a booth at Comic-Con, but we were their NFT partner, right? Like, saying, as we mentioned before, that's a touch point. They will continue to be those kind of touch points that really put our product and our faces in front of wider and wider audiences, while at the same time, we're still educating people on NFTs, right? We're still educating people on digital collectibles. Most of the time, if a new brand announces they're doing a digital collectible with us, you just see the comments filled with like, oh, you're killing the environment and you're doing this and you're doing that, right? Even though we're on Immutable and it's gas-free, right? So virtually no impact. So we're still that early, right? We're that early in the piece in terms of people's understanding, people's adoption of these things. And the people that do understand it, that are digitally native, are under 18. They're the ones playing Roblox and Minecraft and buying skins in Fortnite, right? And really, they're the generation that will take up this technology and really push it, right? We're all just here early because we understand the opportunity that's come from it and have found it however we found it.
So previously, there was a discussion of like 2.5 million, users on Veve. Do you have an idea of like how many active users are there actually right now?
I think on the blockchain, what are we at? 650,000, 700,000 active wallets, right?
Yeah.
That 2.5 million number came from active accounts, right? And it doesn't mean that if you don't have a collectible, you don't have an account, right? So, look, I'd like to say there's probably closer to 1 million accounts that would be usable and people are frequenting, whether they secure drops or just come back to the app at some point. But I don't have the exact number.
Okay, and there was also discussion just recently about AF15 and almost like a Europe ban or an Eastern Europe ban. We can't confirm it. We've had multiple people tell us that 5 minutes before the drop and 5 minutes after they couldn't access the app. What happened with that? Is that true?
Yeah. From what I've seen, yeah, it was true. Now I don't know the specifics. I don't obviously deal with the dev side of things, but I do know, and we've mentioned this before, that our anti-spam protections, for lack of a better term, right? Bot protections, all those things, obviously on a drop like that, they're jacked up to the max, right? Everything is as high level as it can be. All of our protections are in place. We take no chances because we want to protect our users and the collectors in the app, right? We want to make it as fair as possible. Unfortunately, from some regions, that's a lot of spam activity. A lot of things try to hit the servers. A lot of things try to attack us, and it's always in that amount of time. And it just sounds, at least from what I understand, that some people just got caught up in that collateral damage, right? As the systems try to protect everybody in the app and differentiate between bots and spam users and genuine users, it just blocks out a lot of that nefarious traffic. And if it's all coming from one particular location, even though it might not be that particular app user, they can just get caught up in it. Yeah. Okay. So obviously that's not going to be the case forever, right? We are always refining the systems that we have, and there's always new, better technologies and better ways to identify that traffic and where it's coming from. So, massive apology on our behalf to anyone who that happened to, right? It's not the experience that we're trying to build, but we really are trying to come at this from a protecting our collectors point of view, right? And yeah, it's unfortunate that that's where a lot of that nefarious traffic comes from.
Okay. You guys have mentioned recently, I guess, on Twitter, and it seems like it's been a couple of weeks now, maybe, with the crypto cash out. Is there like what are the technical issues with that? Is there anything that we can hear about, or do you have a timeline on maybe when that will be sorted, or does it look like a longer term item now?
No, I don't think it'll be that long term. No. It's all being worked on. I actually don't know the details of it. I'd have to find them out. I think obviously it's a new implementation, right? And again, this is why you have public beta, right? It's you obviously roll something out and hope that it all goes smoothly, but when it doesn't, you have to stop things and fix things. So I think whatever the issue was, the devs just said, okay, how about we stop this, reintegrate whatever they're integrating, and then bring it back online. But it's coming back, right? It's not something that we had for 3 days and thought, nah, don't do it. Like it's coming back.
Is there any more news on exchanges for OMI? I know it's been talked about a lot. Any updates you can give us?
Yeah, so I have updated this every now and again in the community. I'm of the belief, and so the team, that now's just not a good time to be listing on an exchange. Frankly, right? You list on a high volume exchange in a bear market, and you're really just giving people exit liquidity, right? And everyone's free to do what they want with their tokens, and they can already sell them on the exchanges we have available. So our efforts and our brain power has just been put elsewhere. I've said this before, we're really trying to maintain or build and maintain momentum for the token, right? Because it's been very stop-start since we rolled this out. When we rolled out Veve, we all thought the token would be in there within a few months. Then the app broke, right? That was before you guys were around. But like 12 months ago, 14 months ago, we had to completely rebuild the app, right? It had been live for 3 months. The user base grew, rebuild it. Then we hit the rate limits of GoChain, so we had to completely migrate the ecosystem elsewhere, right? So there's always been very legitimate reasons as to why these things have kind of been pushed back. And unfortunately, that meant we missed the momentum, or at least the hype that we could have capitalized on in the middle of the bull market, right? So I just think we're better off being patient on that front, because I just don't think it would serve people, right? And at the moment, especially token holders. And instead, we're building these community partnerships, right? We've got the Fish Arena, we've got all these play to burn games, there's another game in the works, maybe a couple. Really going back to the grassroots, building from the community, get that momentum going. As markets recover, we start to list and build that momentum. OMI becomes available in the app and more accessible in the app. And we can actually capitalize and have a rollout plan that will benefit token holders, which obviously is what everybody wants. It's holding OMI.
Yeah, and markets go up and down, right? So, I mean, I appreciate actually the opportunity to accumulate when I have the time to think and do it, because sometimes in bull markets, emotions get in the way. People make mistakes. So I agree with you that maybe there's time and place for everything.
Yeah, and like we've seen in the last few months, like a lot of exchanges aren't safe, right? Like a lot of them have paused. You've had a lot of CeFi platforms pause withdrawals. Exchanges changing their plans. Some of them have struggled to let you get your tokens out, things like that. So you also want to make sure that the companies we're listing on here, because we are a premium product, right? And the token will become such an integral part of that, but they're aligned with what we're doing and that we can safely send our users there to transact. And I just think we're better off capitalizing on the big dogs when there's momentum.
So the queue system, I know there's been a lot of talk about that. You guys ended up taking charge and getting rid of the bots a lot. I know that it was kind of brought up a little bit in the last community AMA. Is it something that we're expecting to see in this quarter, or are we just going to kind of skip over it until we get to MCP and you have MCP points that you can put into that?
Yeah, so the queue system was almost ready, a couple months ago when it was really necessary, right? But a lot of that problem was bot traffic. As soon as we managed to kind of get on top of that, people started landing drops again. It actually just became less important to get in the app straight away, right? But as you mentioned, we need it for the MCP, right? And for some of those drops, especially once you can spend your points against the drop or however that's taking place. So I think we'll see it before the end of the year. I can't really give any more specifics on that, but I'm pretty confident in saying we'll see it sometime between now and the end of the year.
There's also been mixed reviews about the reservation system. After a drop, I think there's teams of people, let's say, coming together, locking up the first 20, listing lower. Do you plan in leaving the reservation system in place, changing it? Is it just a temporary thing for now?
Yeah, so we have securities around that, right? If the same account reserves a collectible and doesn't purchase it, I think maybe 2 or 3 times or whatever it is, their account's restricted, right? So it's not actually happening as frequently as people think that it is, right? Because a lot of these accounts get wiped out as it goes. But of course, right, we're always reviewing these things. We're always trying to find the best practice and the best way to do it. And if we've learned anything since we launched Veve, it's that we can roll something out with the best intentions, and within 5 minutes, everybody will try to game it, right? Everyone will try to find some loophole or some way to advantage themselves, and then we have to extend the build time to try and solve all those problems. So, everything, all of those things are always in development and in review to try and make this experience as fair as possible for as many people as possible.
Also, there's been a lot of questions, and I think it's been talked about a lot. It's the payout fee. I think the 10% fee. Is there been any update that you can give us on, do you know at this point, is there a strategy maybe to get that fee down? Is it just right now it's 10%? This is what it is for now until further notice?
Yeah, we absolutely are going to bring that down at some point, right? And that's the intention behind it. I think we've broached this before, but aside from acting like, let's call it what it is. It's a bit of a deterrent to cash out straight away, right? But we also have the App Store fees to think about, right? And Payout's only been live for a month, right? Less than that. But Veve's been live for 18 months, and we've been giving away 30% of any income to the app stores, right? Which makes it pretty hard from a payout point of view to balance those scales. So that 10% is going towards balancing that. But as we push more people to the web platform, or as the incentive to use the web platform is stronger, we no longer have to pay that fee or as much of that fee, and it gives us a lot more wiggle room to bring that down. So yeah, absolutely the intention. I think we'll see it start to come down sooner than later. Now that payout is in and we're actually seeing how it's used, right? There's also that you roll something out at the start and you're as conservative as you can be, frankly, because you don't know. We didn't. I mean, what if everybody just sold and left the app? You know, like, obviously it hasn't happened, and there's plenty of collectibles that are bringing people in and keeping people in. But it was a protection, right? And it had to be that way. So yeah, we'll definitely aim to bring that down, because now, maybe not yet, but it will become a deterrent, right, instead of a protection. And as you alluded to earlier, we try to make this as seamless and easy for people as possible and enjoyable as possible. So yeah, we'll bring it down when we can.
Cool. Okay. So we talked about, actually you talked about, we were watching Taps' stream with you from a couple months ago, just to make sure we didn't have too many overlapping questions that you've already answered. But one that we did want to talk about that you talked about on that stream is the Veveverse timeline that you seemed pretty excited about 3 months ago, that we were for sure ready by the end of the year. It might be in a basic format, showroom, go to your friend's showroom. Are we still on track with the Veveverse end of the year?
Yeah, so I don't have anything definitive. The last I've heard, we're still on track to see that first stage of the showrooms before the end of the year, or, that first implementation of the Veveverse. But since that interview, everybody's become very tight-lipped about what can be said and what will be said about it. So I think I'll just leave that one there for now. Yeah, until there's something we can actually talk about.
Yep.
Another question about the Veveverse in the future, long-term thinking. I mean, we all have our own ideas from our own research of how it's going to look, but we would love to know from someone like you, who's, this is your job, you're involved in this every single day. How do you see it? Mainly AR, VR. What's your vision? We just talked about the glasses earlier, but can you describe it more and what you think in 5 years, 10-year range, how it's going to look?
Yeah, you want to talk about the Veveverse specifically, or the Metaverse?
I mean both. It's up to you. Both would be great.
Let's talk generally about the Metaverse then, because like I said, the Veveverse, even if I give my own opinion, people will think that it's confirmation and it just causes too many problems, right? So I think our understanding of the Metaverse, it's going to be multifaceted, right? And ultimately, it's really just referring to our lives becoming more digitally native, right? And having that literal augmented reality that we live in. So I think we're definitely going to have that layer, like digital overlay, right, in the real world, whether that's through the glasses and the collectibles and all those things you can kind of see. Then I think we're going to have, I think the idea of a website is going to change, right? Websites are 2D. They're pretty boring and plain, and they've been optimized till high heavens, to try and capture your attention and keep it on there. But I think before long, you'll send someone an address in a metaverse and they'll walk around your 3D store or your 3D website or those kind of things. So I really see that kind of implementation coming and being referred to as the metaverse as well. Obviously, there's the gamified version of it, right? The interoperability of your assets. So if I'm a character in this game and I get this magic sword, I can take both of those items to the next game and use it there, right? And interact with it there. And I think that's kind of where people's minds are at, the Ready Player One style, like metaverse, right? But I don't really, it's not really the metaverse until all of those elements are tied together, right? And accessible and functional across all ecosystems and all of that, because then we're rebuilding the physical world and the digital without the limitations, right? And I think that's my notion of the metaverse. And I think it takes us a long time to get there, right? Everyone's going to build these siloed games and siloed environments and metaverses before they get tied together. There's no doubt going to be 100 different schools of thought as to how they should be done. I saw recently that Meta, NVIDIA, some of these biggest tech companies in the world had formed a consortium to build protocol standards for the metaverse, whether they become the ones adopted or someone else builds them out, if they're Web3 native, there's so many variables at the moment that whatever we think the metaverse is going to be, I already know is going to be completely different. But I think we have a place in it, right? I really do think that we have a really solid foundation to usher in the metaverse, or at least our version of it, and to, I don't want to use this word, to become the forefathers and the foremothers of the metaverse, right? To actually influence the way it's designed. And we obviously come from a point where we have the backing of these brands as well. So they bring their expertise, they bring their user base, all of these kind of things to build that experience out, at least for our customers and users. And whether that's replicated elsewhere, we'll find out.
Cool. So I want to bring up actually a question from the audience here. We've been looking at the questions and the super chats, and thank you guys so much for sending them through. If we're not talking about them, we might have it further down our list, and there will also be opportunity shortly here. We don't have too many questions left to open it up to the floor, but I don't want to skip this one because it's one that I know we don't have on our list. So shout out Veve Vibes. Are non-KYC accounts still accumulating MCP, and will the points be added to the main merged account or just be unusable in the future?
Yes. Yeah. They're still accumulating MCP points because you've still got the collectibles and you've still got the account. Right? The only difference is your verification, which obviously as soon as you KYC, that'll be fine. What was the merged account part, or did I?
Yeah, he was just asking if, because I think there was talks about being able to merge your secondary account eventually.
Yes.
Will the points be merged as well?
I don't think so. And I kind of misspoke in an AMA maybe 2 months ago where I was under the impression that would be the case. So I think when they're merged, obviously all your collectibles will move to your main KYC account, but I don't think that the points will transfer just because of the way the algorithms work and are calculated there. So obviously, if you haven't KYC'd yet, you want to KYC your main account or the one that you want to keep moving forward. And I'll look for more clarification and confirmation as to whether those points can be transferred to.
I assume people have the same question when it comes to followers. For example, they might have built up a YouTube channel account and have a main account that probably won't get transferred over.
The whole point of the merged accounts thing is to move your collectibles, right? So that they're under one KYC account and you can participate in the app. Now, obviously, from the day that you merge them, you'll start earning all the extra MCP points on your main account, right? So, there's still a lot of value there in those collectibles.
Okay. We recently did a video about Veve being bigger than Amazon one day, like the go-to shop. There's the thumbnail. Rob pulled it up. What are your thoughts on this? Do you see that for the future of the company? Do you see it being the go-to metaverse store, online place? What do you see about that?
Yeah. And I guess we can throw back to the metaverse question before, and like I said, not confirmation, my opinion. But in this digital landscape where you have the Marvels and the Disneys and all of these big IPs with the utility and the gaming and the experience and whatever else is going to take place there, Veve almost becomes the digital gift shop, right? We're already the digital merchandising partner, but you then have this platform where you can collect the same way that we buy physical merchandise now, but to commemorate your digital experience, right? And obviously the same way things are, those things are exclusive items. You might be one of the first 1,000 people to complete this game and you have that item that comes with it, right? So yeah, I think there's a lot of space there to continue to build that out. And as I said, we're already the digital merchandising partners of a lot of these brands. We're seeing it with the cinema rollouts and Lightyear and Jurassic Park and that kind of thing. All of these companies obviously realize that opportunity too, right? It's way better for the environment than distributing oodles of plastic toys that don't last. You've got instant distribution across the world, right? And an easy way for everybody of that fandom to appreciate that product. So yeah, that's where I see the future of it. I agree with you. Maybe Amazon's not the exact comparison, but in terms of the leader in this space and the access that we have, I've always thought we would become the standard.
Cool.
I'm going to add to that question. Just about the Marvel Disney partnership. Going forward into the future, I mean, it's a long way to go still until we have the metaverse and we have all the things that we think will make Veve bigger than Amazon become possible. Is there any concern or risk that you think Marvel might change their mind and look elsewhere?
Not for me personally. I mean, look, I won't rule it out, right? Any company can do anything they want, right? And these guys are licensing companies. But they've seen what we can do, right? And they obviously wouldn't launch collectibles elsewhere because they'll dilute their own supply, right? That's kind of the biggest thing there. But they also, Marvel particularly, are so adamant about giving back to their community, right? And including their community and being part of that, that I don't think that they would make a move like that purely on that front, right? Let alone any other reason. So, no, at the moment, everybody's very happy. We've created a product that has never existed before, and from a licensing point of view, these guys they're very content with the partnership we have. Yeah.
Have you ever considered going public? Do you need to go public to raise funds to help fund Veve and get it to where it needs to be? Do you think that Disney would have an issue with that? I don't know how your deals are, but have you guys talked about that at all?
Nah. People did used to ask this in the earlier days, because we could all see the potential then. It's not a priority of ours. Dan and David, I don't think, would give this up. Not anytime soon. And if we did go public, you're then subject to the whims of the shareholders, who are all profit driven, as opposed to what this is meant to be, which is a really fun collectible experience, right? So if we went public, I think we would lose all of that. Frankly, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think we'd lose most of the community because it would be corporatized, right? And that's not what anybody really wants from this. So no, we're not even considering going public.
And in terms of transparency, I mean, as of right now, all our collectibles, they're on Veve. Basically, they're the custodian. Veve is the custodian of the collectibles. If something were to ever happen to Veve, our collectibles by default would also follow. So is there ever been discussion about more transparency in terms of the company health, just making sure that the user base understands that, everything's okay and you guys are moving forward? Obviously, this, from our perspective, it looks like everything's okay, but there are people who think in that manner, and if they had the confirmation, maybe they'd be more willing to join the project since you're so early in your days.
Yeah, look, I kind of understand the concerns, right, and wanting to know those details. But I mean, one, we are a private company, right, and that's how private companies operate. But I think I'd rather make the point that, like, if you're still skeptical after Marvel, after Disney, after, I almost spat out a different brand there. After all of the guys that we have on the app, you almost got me. After all of the things that we have on the app, and it's not like we just announced them and that was it, right? We're still rolling out new brands. We're still releasing new artists. We're still making our way through that and seeing incredible success and adoption on that front. If that's not enough for you to have some confidence, right? I'm not saying put life savings into things, right? But if that's not enough to kind of give you that validation, as you said earlier, Joe, I don't really know what is, to be honest. Like, in the early days of crypto, there were plenty of companies that used to claim they had Disney, and claim they had this, claim they had that, right? And then we kind of came out and actually had partnerships with them all, which led to more partnerships, right? Once we signed the Marvel signature partnership, there was 20, 30 licenses that were on the fence that signed the next week, right? Because it was enough. So, yeah, look, I just think, personally, my opinion, I think we've kind of proven that we're here to stay and that we have the firepower and the star power to be here. And we're maybe people have forgotten the original premise of this, but we are the ones walking these Web 2 companies, not even Web 2, right? Just traditional businesses into the Web 3 arena, right? And they were so hesitant to be part of anything to start with. They're not going to change now after seeing so much success. Like, I don't know. They're all my opinions, obviously, but yeah, maybe Veve is not for you if you're still skeptical.
No, I agree, and that's like you mentioned. That's why I joined. I had to see that confirmation from Disney, and the fact that they keep putting out collectibles. It's not like it was a one-time thing. They brought in the golden moments, never came back. It's continuous. That Marvel's in, and we've seen DC here and there as well still. So there's still, I assume, plans for them to be putting out more and more material with the app. So that's confidence to me as well. Yeah. The next question is, I saw you touched on it as well on Tapstream. Maybe a little bit of an update on the localization languages for the app. I know that you mentioned in that interview that it was a big undertaking to do because you have to make sure that everything has every language translated, so it just slows down the process of things. Has it kind of taken a back seat, or is it something that you guys still working towards, or do you need to be bigger and have more employees before that's something you can do?
Yeah, the latter, right? I think we need more employees on there, or just whether it's a translation company or whatever kind of takes place. I think it's fair to say it's taken a bit of a backseat, right? Based on the user base, the active user base at the moment, based on and obviously we have that data and information, right? So we can see the regions that people are participating in the app from. But I think David did mention something in the last week once that Japanese article came out as well, that they were sort of the next cohort of people that we were targeting and those kind of licenses and brands. So look, it's definitely still coming. Obviously, we all know it's going to be a huge catalyst for the app to be used across all of the locations that these licenses come from. But I think it's probably also fair to say that a lot of the content we've released so far is more of a North American, Western world content base. And localization makes more sense when we are going to release those regional licensed products, right? Things that are more specific to Japan or whatever it happens to be. So I think that will be part of that rollout. Makes sense to me that that's part of that rollout. But yeah, I don't have an actual update.
I think you gave us like our most played segment of the video. When YouTube shows you those little bumps, it's gonna be when Rhys almost slipped, and now we're gonna have to hear all the different. Someone
clip it and post it.
Was it but I don't know. It's just speculation.
Always.
All right.
So one thing that we talked a lot about was like set trading. So we know about HRO has leaderboards, you can trade cards. We were thinking with Veve you could trade collectibles, which is kind of like bring transfers back, but almost in a more organized way. And then you can also trade sets. If you have a complete set, you can trade the set, or just any group of collectibles. And then there's the leaderboard on top of that, which I guess would be an MCP leaderboard, which we've discussed previously. Can you give us your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So this was a feature we probably talked about 12 months ago. Direct trading was what we kind of called it at the time. So instead of listing something on the market and just waiting for someone to buy it, if you and I made a deal, then we could swap one for one, right? Or I would give you some sort of code and you would see my listing, but it would be a private listing or something like that. So I think that will be the first implementation of any sort of actual barter trade system that we would implement. And then presumably, sets and things come after. I think in the MCP document, there was some sort of mention where, like, in the higher tiers of MCP or MCP Pro, whatever it was, you'd be able to go into someone's showroom and touch their collectible, and it'll tell you what edition number it is and what season and that kind of stuff. So you can get that data and then maybe make an offer if you're exploring people's showrooms, that kind of thing. So, look, I think all of those are amazing features that would really benefit people. And fundamentally, that's how I got into collecting. And I wouldn't say I'm that far into physical collecting, but I can't believe I'm going to drop the P word. But as a kid, I collected Pokemon cards, right? Still got the whole first set of Pokemon cards, and that's how we did it, right? It was trading. I remember making some terrible trades. Traded like holographic Alakazam for a Ghastly or something that I just didn't know enough about it at that point. I never made that trade again. But that's part of the excitement too, right? We all enjoy the drops, and are you going to get it and are you not? But finding that perfect deal, whether it's in the market or with another collector, I think we need things like that to really push the experience. So on the cards, not high on the priority list right now. There's definitely other implementations we need to roll out. Obviously, the artist program is a huge undertaking in and of itself, right? It's a whole other arm of the business to really bring in that content, right? That actual artist content, as opposed to just the premium models and the this and that. But again, that's another thing that's almost out of the way. So.
All right, cool. So we talked a little bit about interoperability off of app. How about interoperability on the app? We've seen in a recent interview, David kind of talked about lightsabers and Yodas and stuff like that. And we also seen in a previous old interview that Dan hinted at changing Superman's cape color or something like that. Is this something near term, long term? Is it something that's still planned? Is it still coming? That type of question.
Yeah. Look, it's always been the intention that collectibles were going to be customizable, right? And I think, I don't know if we'll see it with some of the ones that are already available on the app. Like, I think eventually, you might be able to change capes and whatever. But I think the first iterations of that sort of customizability will come with new licenses because we've sort of built it that way, right? Or it's designed for that. There's also accessories, right? Things like extra things to add in your showroom. Now, what we've really seen, which has been probably way more interesting, is people using their collectibles as accessories, right? To create walls and partitions and amazing designs. But that would be part of the first rollout of the Veveverse, right? To be able to customize your digital space much more holistically, and maybe you can add an extra floor and have a separate showroom or a basement garage for all your collectible cars or those kind of things. So those kind of things are coming, more features to make that experience more exciting. But I'd like to make note of the fact that our collectibles already have more utility than 99% of things in the NFT ecosystem, right? You can do showrooms and you can interact with these things. Some of them, the Slimer and the Ghost Trap, if you've got both, you can suck one into the other, right? Like, you don't have that anywhere else in the NFT ecosystem. So we definitely already have some pretty incredible features. But it's definitely time to level that up and supplement the experience.
Yeah, some of our favorite things are putting that T-Rex in AR, and that's what we show our friends. Like, everyone was asking, what are you doing videos on every day? We show them the up house in the sky. We show them the T-Rex, the lightsaber. So that's cool. Another thing that we noticed in the app, I don't know if it's there on purpose or whatnot, but when you go into one of the collectibles, there's like a tab, and I think even Golden Moments, they have that pedestal. Is that something that will be removable? Is that
so that would be the accessories. That would be the accessories, right? So some of them would be like plinths or bases or things like that. Some would be shelving. Because if you've ever seen a collector's showroom, and I only really base this on David Yu, but he's like the number one collector. Things are in glass display cases, perfect lighting. Every image is set out perfectly on the wall. All those kind of things. Like, that's what we designed the showrooms off, right? His passion for collecting and showing them off, right? So we really want to translate that, right? Veve was always designed to digitize the physical collecting world, not to necessarily, reinvent it. They're all necessary to have in there. And you're right. I don't know why that thing's still in the app at the moment while we don't have them live, but I think it's just been forgotten about from a development point of view.
Cool. It's funny because we did a video on changing collectibles, and we speculated you can make your Superman green, and what people in the comments didn't like was that we used green of all the colors, the kryptonite color, so they weren't very happy with that. We also did a video though about how Veve might release new editions of your current collectibles, and we speculated that maybe like with Pokemon cards, you had that first season, and then a later season it was the same card, almost looked identical. Barely any tweaks, and it's released again. Have you guys ever talked about doing anything like that, or would it be just always a brand new look, completely different every time in the future?
Yeah, look, that is part of the physical collecting world, right? And it's not so much that you release the same item and then just add edition numbers, but you'll have different colorways. For example, I think the Todd Batman, if you look it up, there's like an amazing blue and yellow version of it, things like that. So I think we'll see things like that for sure, right? And different colorways there that might have their own scarcity, their own reasons for people wanting to pick those things up.
So Todd 2.0 then.
If that's one that happens, sure. Yeah, Todd 2.0. And obviously people, it gives people a chance to collect things that they really love that have come into the app later, right?
Right.
And have their own collectability. We just saw it with Sket One's Ting, right? I didn't really put this together until I was at DesignerCon last year, but that's how a lot of these guys release their content. It's the same character in a whole bunch of different colorways or different designs, right? Now, obviously, in the digital space, we can do amazing things like the radioactive Ting glows, right? The Labicorn from Kozik vomits a rainbow, right? There's things you can do that you couldn't do in the physical world, even though it's the same character, and most of these artists, right? The Darrow from Jermaine Rogers, most of these artists have created this entire lore around their character, where their character comes from, the universe they're in, that kind of thing, which gives rise to having different colorways or different versions of the same piece. So that's all of that is a replica of the physical collecting world, and I think knowing David Yu, he'll try to bring as much of that world into the digital space as he can.
Yeah. So I picked up a couple questions from the chat as we were going. One that I seen repeatedly, so I'm just going to ask it. I think we kind of hinted at it earlier, but I don't know if it was touched on. I know that you guys previously had some kind of deal with NFLPA, and then I know they ended up doing their own thing and said no more NFTs, or then they ended up coming with all day their own product. Not necessarily NFL, but any sports coming anytime.
There are, yeah. Sports is one of the verticals that we're obviously going after. There are better and worse times of year to roll out particular sports, right? Obviously based on seasons and all those kind of things. And even then, if it's the ideal time of year, it depends on whether the content's ready, everybody's happy with what's going on, all those kind of things. Some of the big sports brands have tested the waters, right? Major League Baseball did like a bobblehead NFT 18 months ago, something like that. And I just they didn't know, there was no effort behind it to educate people on what they were, and just, they really didn't see any adoption, right? Then you've got things like Top Shots, and not to take a shot at Top Shots, but like, I don't hear anyone talking about Top Shot anymore. Their product became very diluted very quickly, right? So a lot of those sports brands really want to make sure that they're with the right partner, and they're producing or releasing products that will be in demand, right? And that their audience is ready for them as well. So a lot of moving parts there that go into that, but it's definitely a vertical that's on the way.
That's awesome.
Another one that's been coming up on the chats is about renting NFTs. We know there's been, obviously a long-term goal is to have that be the situation where if somebody wanted to read a comic book, they could rent it. If somebody wanted to use a collectible for a party in the metaverse, they can rent it. Then there was also mention from David Yu once about some legality issues with it, with the licensors. Since the questions have been coming up on the chat a few times today, can you give us your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, these would purely be my thoughts, right? Because nothing's kind of, that's a way down the line implementation. I think licensors will be fine with it as long as they're getting their cut, because that's what licensors do. Practically, I don't think it would be that like, I don't see it falling into many gray areas personally, right? If I own something and I want to rent it to you, like, the only real stipulations would be like how much you're renting it for, the time period, that kind of thing. Because from our end, right, and I guess this is only available right now in a centralized fashion, is that you have that system that automates it, so it then goes back to its original owner, right? It's not transferring ownership; it's just transferring the collectible for a short amount of time, or whatever it happens to be. But like, I'd just be blowing smoke to put anything more on that until it's closer to being done.
Okay. There was another question that came up. I can't find it. It's way up there now. But you mentioned about the merging accounts for the KYC, and about how you're going to look into the points. Maybe that's something that will happen. Maybe it won't. I know that collectibles will be able to be merged. Is that the same for gems?
Oh yeah. Anything like that, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. We wouldn't just like say goodbye to half your money in X account. Yeah. We can definitely move that across. Yep.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's it.
Another one that I noted that I wanted to follow up on was, we talked about the API. You know that there's other community members right now using the API. Why not just go public with it, or when public API?
Great question. Great. So there's only one, right? It's only the Clown at the moment. I think I've mentioned this before, but we are very slowly opening up some API access to people. So if they have a proposal or something that they're using in the end of a product, obviously reach out to me. We will go public, right? But the public API will be much more limited. So it doesn't put too much load on servers and things like that. I think we need to migrate a lot of that accessible information to its own database for exactly that reason. And frankly, it's just a bit lower on the priority list. Right? Like it's on there. We understand the need for it, all those kind of things, and I cannot wait for it to be publicly available so that people can access it and build whatever they want to build with it. There's just been things on the dev list to get done first, right? KYC, payout, artist pro, you know the list.
There's so many people like on Twitter that we talk to all the time, and we resource them in our videos. It's like come together kind of thing, build it up, talk to Rhys, and you never know. It could be the thing, right? So
absolutely. I mean, I'm in conversations with three people at the moment about getting that private API access, right, and trying to open that up. So it is happening, right? It is happening. There's obviously a lot that we have to vet. We have to see your code. We have to have an agreement in place, right? That's a big thing. Anyone who's accessing our data in any way, shape, or form has to have an agreement with us as to how they can use it and all of those things. So there's definitely legalities involved with that, and that slows down the process of opening access to the API. But once the public API is available, well, then it's just open and available for people to use.
Okay.
Shiny. I hope he's I'd love to see it. Who knows? He's got some good ideas, Gary Basement.
So we're getting to the end of our questions here, but we had two fun ones that we wanted to ask just to get to know the team better at Veve. Come Christmas time or someone's birthday, do you guys just gift each other collectibles?
No, all these cheapskates never given me anything. I wish. No, I mean, we're all remote, right? The whole team works remotely. So I don't think anyone's really even aware of when people's birthdays are at the moment, unless they mention it. Which, testament to the entire team. The fact we've managed to build this product and this project from corners of the world. I mean, it's a modern day business, I guess, but that's been a challenge too, making sure that we have that in place. So no, nobody's gifted me anything for my birthday. Alex, if you're listening to this.
We heard you gave him a couple of things when he joined, so
I did. I did. Yeah. I felt bad. I was like, you know what? I was here early. You can have this.
Here's a one from the community. Unsupported payout countries. Are we working towards it, or is there countries that just might never get it?
Yeah, there are, right? Sanctioned countries, the typical list of we all know those kind of lists. For everybody else, we're absolutely working on solutions. Some have to be individualized. Some are limitations on the payout provider, and they have to build in new solutions that we can then utilize. But we're trying to open it up to everybody, right? I mean, from a usability standpoint, you want to know that you have that option available. But it's just better for everybody, right? It helps us to promote in your area as well as open access to you.
Question from our boy Veve Vibes.
It's actually coming up soon, friends. End of the month. So 1 year older. If you want to make me a cake, feel free.
Will you open transfers on that day so people can send you gifts?
I'll put in the request.
Yeah. Here's another one. People asking about Comic-Con. I don't know if you know, but who's going to be there? If people are looking to go there.
I will be there, friends. I think Dan will be there. I haven't got confirmation. I'm not sure about David yet. He might be off doing something else. I don't think Alex is there. He has a prior engagement. And then you'll meet some more of the team as well, some of the people that are a bit more in the background that you probably haven't seen before.
Cool. You got any more, Rob?
We got one more, but also speaking of gifts, I think it's time that we pull out the gift, because at the beginning of the stream, I was seeing on the side, a lot of people were asking, ask this. We had it on the list. Why? Because all the questions came from you, right? From Twitter, from Instagram, look at the list that we compiled. We knew it was going to take a while. We figured it would be a better format if we compiled all of it in advance. So again, if we thank everybody, and that's why I wanted to ask about the gifts, because Joe, you have it open over there, or?
Yeah, I do. 1 second here. So we've been doing a thing where we have our VIPs enter a raffle, and end of the month we give away a star in the universe. And you took 2 hours out of your day today to be with us. And you're a busy guy. You work for a busy company. You didn't have to do any of this. And you came out here to talk about the product with the community and field all the questions that we received from them on Twitter. So we thought, what better way than to gift you something and name a star after you in the International Space Registry. Superstar Rhys is now existing. Here's your registry number. Here's the date that it was registered. And on top of that, this is pretty cool. Your star is in the Little Dipper. So pretty cool stuff. It's that corner star right there. We'll send this to you after the stream or whatever, but it's just a big thank you from us for coming on the stream and taking the bullets, because we were coming at you a little bit here and there. Good cop, bad cop. But it was all fun, and really appreciate you guys, you coming on, and even all you guys are doing, the rest of the community. You guys are announcing drops on channels, and the CEO is going on YouTube and talking to the community members. That's craziness. So just wanted to show you that.
Yeah, and just one last question. We have this really weird thing that when people subscribe to our channel, they get this juju, we call it. We don't know if it's real. It just seems that they subscribe and good things happen to them. Like they just start getting drops. Is there something going on in the Veve system, or is this just?
Yeah. We sprinkle juju all the time. That's how we do it.
So juju confirmed. Juju confirmed.
Here's some juju. Crypto Cookie. Shout out Crypto Cookie. Today on Groot's drop, got number 1960 and number 60, which is the date of the comic. So he's a VIP right there. So that's pretty cool.
Well done. Hey, massive thanks for the start, fam. Like that's I really appreciate it. Yeah, no
problem. We were happy to do it. We thought it would be a great idea because we once a month we give it away to our superstar. So now when you look up in the universe, you can look for your star, and everybody else watching.
Past the moon.
Past the moon. Exactly. We're not going to the moon. We're going to superstar Rhys up there somewhere in the Little Dipper. So again, I think we covered it all. We could not have been happier to have the opportunity to take you on our channel and have this chance to ask all the questions from the community. We thought it was amazing that you were willing to do this. We appreciate you for doing this. Veve, obviously, we make videos every day, so we think you're doing ultimately a great job, right? So keep it up.
I appreciate all of this. Thanks for the invite, first and foremost. Thanks for building this community and helping to support it, and for everyone that submitted their questions and didn't scream them at me on Twitter. I'm glad I screamed them at you guys. But just massive thanks from all of us at the team and everybody else. Every piece of this, it all contributes to the story that we're all putting together. So it's huge shout out to you both. Keep the content coming. Good luck on the next fight, gents. Hey,
Rob, you think it's time?
I think it's time.
Standing go.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're standing over. So again,
I saw a couple questions actually. I wanted to ask: are you wearing shoes or socks?
No shoes in.
There you go.
What would it be?
I think there were some bets on the side there. I think we had some bets on the side.
We have to settle the bet.
Yeah.
Not my thing. It's the beauty of working at home. Why would you wear shoes?
Agreed. So everybody watching, after we close this live, let us know below what you guys thought about today's video. Of course, you can leave more questions below. You can tell us your thoughts, continue the conversation on everything discussed. Obviously, we're going to be seeing more and more from Veve going forward. So let's have that conversation. You can always reach out to us. And also, before you leave, don't forget, smash the subscribe button, become a superstar, join the superstar fam. We got superstar Rhys now joining the superstar FA superstar video. So there we go. Again, we hope to have you on soon. Thank you for coming. We'll see you guys all. We'll see you all in the next one.
Love you.
See you guys.